What is the weirdest thing you have seen in someone else's home? A mounted moose head with large antlers. They installed light bulbs behind its amber glass eyes. At night, it looks as though the moose is angry and about to charge right off the wall over their mantle. Was this in Canada? Northern Maine. Diet Canada. No. My mom used to keep a 1800s headstone by our fireplace. It washed up in our yard during a massive flood. We also had a 1800s coffin in our living room. But that didn't wash up in a flood. She purchased it from somewhere. Undefined. Your surname wouldn't happen to be Adams, would it? Adams. Old Fart had a receipt for the purchase of a slave in Louisiana. Framed and hanging over his toilet. An interesting document from history for sure. But having it framed and hanging over the toilet is peeping weird. While growing up, my neighbor had a full-sized nude statue of himself in the foyer. His wife used to put boxers on it when guests came over. But we'd always sneak a peek. To this day I wonder about the accuracy of the representation. That's funny AF. Was it packing? LOL, I couldn't imagine an unattractive man with a small package wanting a statue of themselves, LOL. Some people are just comfortable in their own skin. It's about the motion in the ocean. It's not the size of the boat. It's how you peep. Wonder if the carpet matches his pubes. I was visiting a donor once and they lived in this small apartment in a retirement community. There was this thing under a blanket that was taking up like a third of the living room. So I finally asked what it was. It was a 17th century Italian harpsichord. Just sitting in a living room in the middle of Kansas. It didn't even work. And neither of them played. But there it was. Well, where else is he gonna put it? We were looking for a new house. Walked towards one of the bedrooms. Noticed it had a clasp on the outside of the door so it could be locked from the outside with a padlock. Once we walked in, the entire room was full of ventriloquist dummies. Not sure if they were locking them in at night or what. That's the cursed room. We don't go in there. Parents that get along. Good one. I used to be a landscaper. In the mid-2000s. We redo this guy's terrace and I have to take a leak. I ask him if I could use his toilet. He leads me through the living room. And I speep you not. He had a huge photorealistic painting of himself next to Adolf Hitler. I told my boss about it and about 5 minutes later the guy had to look for another landscaper. Undefined. Amen. Saxony. P.S. Good on your boss. Neighbor taxidermied all of his dead pets. Joy. An antique OBGYN table as a centerpiece in their living room. Feel free to put your feet up and relax. A 1943 Panzerkampfwagen Sturmgests 3 in his garage. Nice. It's quite surprising. Dude opened the garage and I was expecting like a cool car or something, but instead I was looking directly down a 75mm peeping barrel. I know Panzer IIIs are relatively small tanks. But how big was that garage? Garage was sort of a loose term, it was more like a small barn but had those vertical lifting doors like you see on a conventional garage. The tank makes frequent appearances at the tank farm in Virginia, USA. I used to have an old neighbor that I was friendly with who had this massive garage that he spent a lot of time at. I always assumed he had an classic car collection, so one day I asked if I could see his cars. He was confused. Then I asked about the garage and he said he'll take me in, but not what was in it. When I went into his garage I was shocked. Turns out he was a big game hunter back in the day and he had trophies of everything you could imagine. A grizzly bear rug. Full-sized lion with a lioness. A stuffed giraffe from the neck up. Buffalo. Warthogs. Wildebeest. Crocodile head and alligator head. Full-sized cheetah. Full-sized jaguar. And so much more. He had an entire museum in his garage. Go eat a burger. I don't object to eating meat. I don't much like the idea of trophy shooting though. An entire room full of porcelain dolls. Not in good condition either. Most of them were broken and filthy. Like everything in that house. It was like a horror movie. That house is one murder away from becoming a nightmare house. Broken eggshells on bookshelves. I read this to the tune of My Favorite Things. Now I sang it. A urinal. In a private residence. My friend's dad installed it in his basement/workshop. You still have to go upstairs to poop though. Mind if I use your bathroom? Sure. It's right through there. I need the upstairs one. I saw a used litter box at a friend's house. He doesn't have a cat. A fixed phone. It worked. So it was a fully functional telephone. Hooked to the wall and so forth. Just like mine. Boy, I feel old. A room that had a toilet, shower and a kitchen at the same time. Oh. So. A studio apartment? Nope. It was a room of a regular house. My parents have a full-sized stuffed baboon in their living room. It gets dressed for holidays and otherwise just wears Mardi Gras beads. He had a collection of glass eyes and dentures. He worked for an auction house and often when people die, the family hires them to clean out the house and auction everything off. He is allowed to take home anything the auction house will not sell. This includes glass eyes and dentures. I just don't understand why he'd want them. He had a display shelf for them. Condoms everywhere on the floor in my friend's basement. I was 5 and thought they were balloons. A Russian satellite. Husband had worked for a small tech firm in the early days. Then it went supernova in the dot-com boom. So he bought himself a special room built onto his house. It was possible to unbolt one wall, remove the satellite, put it on a flatbed, and transport it. My best friend has a small jar of her baby teeth. That's perfectly normal in my generation at least. The tooth fairy wasn't a thing when we were children and everyone had a Zondos. I was about 15 and agreed to babysit my neighbor's kid one night. I'd known this family pretty much my whole life but I'd never been inside their house. Anyway, I go round and they head out and leave me to it. The kids are already in bed so I'm just gonna be sitting watching TV for a few hours. I go through to the living room and the first thing to note is that the lights are black lights. The walls are painted black and in the corner is a fully sized mannequin of a female in bondage wearing a gas mask. It was the most uncomfortable 3 hours of my life and I could never look at them in the eye again. Poop knife. I actually got a poop knife for my birthday this year. Curio cabinet full of porcelain fairies speeping on each other. Hundreds of them. A bathroom full of stuffed animals. So gross. I couldn't imagine that gross. Hope they didn't have kids, lol. They were the parents of a friend of mine. We were adults when I visited their home. But I was told the stuffed animals had always been in the bathroom. So nasty. Yikes. How's they feel about that atrocity as adults? LOL. The whole family was a bit weird. Our friendship didn't last long. They were all nasty people. Yet I couldn't keep a friendship like that. LOL. They probably had stuffed animals in their bathroom too. LMAO. On an open house tour I saw a monkey that had been stuffed by a taxidermist and turned into a lamp. It also had wings. There was also an adult skeleton on display in a closet. But the piece de resistance was a doubled-headed Holstein calf that had also been stuffed and encased in a glass box for use as a nightstand in the main bedroom. The floors were painted black. But the exterior was a bright cheerful yellow Queen Anne. I've commented about this before, but my neighbor had a small box of little president statues in the back of the basement. All of them were decapitated. What in the entire FBeep? LOL. A bald Barbie stripped naked and pinned on a wall in the bathroom. Jelsht. I met a guy that was gifted a full-sized stuffed black bear by his father. He didn't want to get rid of it because his father died soon afterwards. But he also didn't want to keep it in his apartment in the city. So he stored it in the basement of his vacation cabin up in the mountains. The first time he took his girlfriend up to the mountains, she went down to the basement to use the spare bathroom. He neglected to mention the bear. So she didn't see it until she turned on the basement light and it was right next to her. I met them about 5 years later. And it was pretty clear that she was still mad. Farts in a jar under the bed. Gene Belcher, that you? Finally. Someone else on Reddit who likes Bob's Burgers. Not me. But I lived with a sex worker a few years back who had a client who enjoyed having his frijoles stepped on with stiletto heels. His entire apartment was furnished exclusively with wicker furniture and his walls adorned with needlepoint portraits of bunny rabbits. 2 full-grown alligators in a basement. Dude sold tropical fish in his basement off Craigslist. He showed me a fenced-off corner that had 2 easily 6-foot alligators. I noped out as quickly as possible. Imagine that guy saying, "Oh, the toilet's right above the alligator." RO the basement. It's above the basement. Definitely. I always wondered what he ended up doing with them. A giant Freemason grandfather clock. So. My GF was introducing me to her parents. She asked them, "Can we keep him?" Referring to me. I decided to go ahead and say, "Woof woof mother peeper." That would be awkward AF. LOL. No kids in the basement. SMH. I couldn't believe it. A framed picture of the 2 straight adult sons kissing. A Victorian automated steam-powered concert organ. Took up 2 floors. This was in just a regular residential house. Not a mansion. A working toilet in the middle of the living room. My buddy's dad had schizophrenia and would at times roam around the house naked at night. Woke up to pee one night and spotted his 55-year-old dong. I was like 11 at the time. So I just went back to lay down until I heard his bedroom door close again. A stuffed rabbit head with antlers. It's not that strange. But I find it strange that I've seen one in at least 4 different clients' houses. What's the point? The elusive jackalope. When I was growing up, the dad of the kid next door stored his poop in Tupperware containers in the refrigerator. I never did ask why. It weirded me out. I can't imagine it'd be for anything other than medical reasons. I had a friend in high school. To put it kindly, their family had no idea of how brooms work. I have worked on farms. And owned one. Usually you have a mud room and the dirt stays there and gets swept out. But this house? Holy speep. I don't think this family walked outside a day in their lives. And there was dirt. And I mean dirt. Not dust. All through the house. I don't know how you can live like that. I'm currently cleaning my floors and that made my stomach hurt, lol. Weird in the best way, a three-headed duckling. From like an ethical taxidermy place. Siblings that get along. A real human skull. I never leave home without mine. Mind-reading lights. A portrait of the old lady who owned the house staring intensely at the camera. I used to go to this neighbor kid's house after school every day. He's on the autism spectrum like me. He was a preemie, so he also has other health issues. Anyway. I guess he was a bedwetter or something. I saw his thankfully unused diaper on the floor. I say bedwetter because he was toilet trained. A morbidly obese 40-something-year-old from work dancing almost naked on a table in the home of another colleague's friend. He gate-crashed a night party. Not even someone he knew. He just overheard us talking about it and came. We were all in our late teens or early 20s. A whole taxidermy lion, LMAO. Condoms. I mean, 'cause protecting yourself from STDs and unwanted pregnancies is just crazy, lol. My girlfriend was house sitting one time and I went to use the bathroom. No lie. These people had a Native American spear hanging over the sink. The house I live in, my sister's house. So technically someone else's home has some weird stuff going on. We just moved in a few months ago and right away I noticed a couple things that didn't make sense. There is an alarm system. But no sensors on any of the windows or exterior doors. There is evidence of one having been removed from the back door. But the front door is pristine. Upstairs is a large open space with bedrooms opening off of it. That playroom has 2 motion sensors. Both right next to one of the bedroom doors. One of them is aimed at the whole area. But the other is pretty specifically aimed at that particular door. That door also has the only alarm sensor in the entire house. And it locks from the outside. I have no idea what or who the previous residents were keeping in there. It's a pretty normal room and not the obvious route to break in, especially given that it's on the 2nd floor except for the alarm sensor and backwards lock. But it's definitely curious. That would freak me the beep out. I found someone's fart bottle one time when I was younger. It was an old school bottle that had a cork that could be removed and set again. I don't know if he would trap every fart or not, but he alluded that if it was near him when he needed let loose he would bottle it up. I didn't ask much more about the logistics of farting in a bottle though. Not enough toilet paper. The mirror. 7 stuffed tigers of a particular type that back when there were only about 15 alive in the wild. Just sitting collecting dust in a back room. My husband and I have a plastic life-sized skeleton sitting in our living room year-round. Her name is Rita and she's a part of this family too. Damn it. My twin friends had anatomically correct plush toys of, by that I mean they had felt penises. A mirror. A cock ring that vibrates that me and my BFF found it in her mom's drawer. Poop knife. A poop knife. Well, I would love to tell, but as this is a public profile I just can't. Okay then.